Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night to all and sundry. It is another day of stamp collecting fun, and yeah, I've used the back of an envelope for this particular intro. So, what have we got? Well, I'm going to show you my new Czech, Greek, and Magyar folder album. I'll show you anyway what I've done, and it's just a nice way, really, in order to organise stamps that I've been putting in the box and not using, and I'll be becoming overwhelmed by. But before we go that, we'll just sneak over here slightly, and what I've done is I've had a bit of a clearance. So I started to get a lot of stuff. I started to get a lot of stuff hanging around, so I decided to bag it all up and put it away for another day. For example, I've got my penny reds in there, GB on paper, old albums that I'm not really using at the minute, stamps that are in, all sorts of stuff. I think that has helped release me from a bit of pressure, a bit of anxiety almost, I would say, about us all becoming a little bit overwhelming. But I do still love to go into the box and rinse and repeat and see what comes out in the wash. So 3 countries, Czech, Greece and Hungary, were 3 obvious ones. I was getting a lot of stamps from those countries, and they were sort of not doing anything. They seemed to be on my mind as well. So I thought, what better way than just to start a page, nothing clever, get the old hinges out, these hinges, which I'm not, they're all right. They're the only ones I can find, really. But just hinge them up, and at least then they are somewhere where I can refer to them. So this is what I've done. First thing I learned was Czechoslovakia is actually Czechoslovensko. So all my life I've been calling it Czechoslovakia. And I was wrong. And it was only when I actually looked at the stamp that I realised that I had been utterly wrong. It is now the Czech Republic and Slovakia and Slovenia, so there's been split since then. And this brings me to the years that the Czech stamps were, well, Czechoslovensko stamps were in issue, or the entity, the country of. So it's 1918, after the fall of the Austro-Hungary Empire, up to 1993, which was the fall of communism. So we've got stamps, and I say only between those dates. I'm sure there's a lot of stamps. So I've tried to get as old as I can. I also did a bit of a history, just for my own. So I knew what I was talking. Not what I was talking about. I knew where I was in the scheme of things. So I've mentioned all the sort of highlights and lowlights. Established 1918. The First Republic was 1918 to 38. Then it was the start of the Second World War. Hitler, of course, invaded Czechoslovakia. So it was occupied by Germany in 1939, and then we have the Protectorate of Bohemia Moravia, which issued their own stamps, and there are some Hitler heads with those on them. Slovakia became a separate state with its own postal service at that time. So Slovakia, which is an independent state today, I believe. Anyway, we'll concentrate on the stamps, but you know what I mean. It's nice to know where I am and what I'm doing. Now, these were in no order. I just basically, as they came along, and I thought, I like the look of that stamp. What I'll do is I'll just identify the year and maybe anything that was particularly of interest. So here we have a 1929 stamp and a 27 stamp, and I stuck it under Google Lens, and it turned out to be the Tatra Mountains. It's quite nice. Quite lovely. We fast forward in time to 65, the Spartak Games. So possibly an Eastern European type games. Sparta Prague, is that something to do with that sort of era? Back to 1929, so we got similar ones there. So maybe they are the same, maybe not either. What else have we got? Dragon Slayer of Trutnov. How about that, eh? You can make out that. A World War II pilot. So at the end of the war, I believe they produced or issued a set of about 10. Don't take my numbers as gospel by any means, but I seem to think it's 8 or 10 stamps associated with the Second World War. That's quite a nice one. 1925, President Masaryk was a big hero over there. National Front 30th anniversary here. So that's a 78 stamp. So 30, that would be 40, I don't know, 48 maybe when it became, if it was 30, when it became communist properly. Czechoslovakia 72, chemist stamp, and this is a 1929 stamp. I failed to identify where that place is. So that's Czechoslovakia. If I turn over the page, we have a few more. Again, apparently 1945. I'm not convinced about that. It looks a little bit modern to me, but it does celebrate the post office, this particular stamp. It may not even be a postage stamp. It may be something else. And then we have German occupation stamps. Now, I've talked about the Hitler heads. I tend to put those elsewhere, but this is a Boheme and Maren, Chechnya and Moravia stamp. So it was that era, 40 to 45. Chemist again here in 1953. Trenchia Castle, I'm probably butchering the language, so any Czechs out there, I apologise. 1960, 1965, Kozice. And a 66 Olomouc. Now I'm getting these years off the Google Lens, so they may all be, I suggest these should be the same year, but I'm just writing down, I'm just, you know what I mean. This is a start. This is for me to just get myself organised in some way. 1958, we have another president's stamp here, Antonin Novotny, and that deals with Czechoslovakia, so that's my start there. We then forward to Greece. We go south to Greece, and here we have a 1906 Olympic stamp. We go downwards. 1954 NATO. 1912 Hermes stamp. I think Hermes is something to do with post. I think it's because he delivers messages. Mercury as well is another one, isn't it? 1937, just before the war. Nice overprint there. Not sure what that is. These are all behind plastics, by the way. 1906 inculcated Olympic Games. So it was the start of the not the start, but it was the early days of the Olympics. It wasn't the Olympics as we know it today. So 1906. Would be interesting to do a bit of research on that, but we're here for the stamps. Macedonia stamp. Macedonia being part of Greece. Well, occupied by Greece. General Charles, 1930 to 32. Charles Fabrier. Doesn't sound French. Doesn't sound Greek. Sounds slightly English. Maybe Fabrier is French. I don't know. And here he is again. I think there was, between the wars there were, Greece did. The boundaries of Greece were back and forth, I believe. National products they're proud of. We see Hellas there. Hermes there, again, 1911. National produce here, grapes. Who doesn't like grapes? Daedalus and Icarus, which are possibly airmail. Maybe not, though. I mean, they are Greek characters. So, possibly then, airmail? I don't know. But they are flying humans. Hermes and Infant, which seems a popular one. The Olympics again. And again, there's a bit of a blurb going on here, more inculcated games, to try and help me understand, to remind me. So, first stamp was issued in 1861, known as the Hermes heads. They were printed in Paris and later in Athens. 19th century, there was territorial growth and the Balkan Wars, and these were reflected in the stamps. Greek mythology, architecture, this sort of stuff. Greco-Turkish wars were also going on, so there's some overprints and emergency issues. And also they did administrate certain areas like Thrace and North Epirus. And then in 1941 to 44, the Germans occupied the country and there were overprints, followed by hyperinflation. So again, just to remind us for myself of what I'm dealing with. Some more modern stamps up here. Yeah, and finally, Hungary. We've got 11 minutes in, so we've got a couple of minutes. Hungary, I'd love to know how to pronounce Magyar. Is it Magyar or Magyar? I don't know. 1921 to 25. A war stamp here, 1943. I'm sure if you can see that. Beautiful picture of her works. Ganz Wagen Works, Budapest, 1963. Buda Castle. Vizer Castle. So there's castles going on. Nagavosnini Castle. And a working people. Now these I've got thousands of. They seem to pop up everywhere. 500 there, 50. I think there's another, 25 there. But those are the only three I've got of that set. I suspect that there are a lot of different denominations in that particular stamp. So, Polyclinic, Ujpest. You know, they're proud of their stuff. And then we turn over, Kilian Georgi Street School. So, you know, they've got a school. What's not to like? I haven't done a blurb. That will be coming, possibly. This is interesting. 50th anniversary post office, 1953. These are from possibly the same sort of set. Is this? I don't know. It looks as if it should be, so I don't know. I think everyone's had one of these, the 5-year plan. By that I mean the stamp, not the 5-year plan. Here we have Ignacio Samvais, physician, who is being celebrated, and the 1960s, more castles, Siklosi Castle and Shavash. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of days. It just helps calm me all down a little bit, because I was suddenly getting overwhelmed with stamps everywhere. It was like confetti. And yeah, I've enjoyed doing it, and you know, I'm again rinsing the box. You know, more stamps are popping up. Here's a Magyar Post. What's this one here? A Greek one. So, you know, they're still popping up and will be added. I can add pages. I've got white card that I hinge the stamps onto, and you know, add my own notes and dates and whatever, of anything that I think is of interest. So I hope you found that interesting. I don't know if you do, but I love doing these videos, and I love watching your videos. And even if you don't do any videos, you know, if you want to share your stuff, you know, there is an audience out there for people to enjoy your stamp. By the way, she's got a nice green stamp there. I wonder if that's a Hungarian. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. 15 minutes have gone. Bye for now.